Good day, good day, good day, everyone. And we meet yet again. And today we're going to start our lesson on stoichiometry. Now, I've gotten quite a number of requests on this particular section. By the way, this is one section that is very relevant for not only grade 10, 11, and 12, but it also is quite relevant for those of you who want to study chemistry further in university. So I would consider this basically the heart of chemistry. So it's quite important for us to understand this section so that we can be able to apply it across everywhere. So I'm going to use a model. All right, so please, I hope that you don't mind. I'm going to use a baking model, and we're going to use it just for us for the purposes of trying to understand stoichiometry. Because in the heart of it, the reason why I believe people normally don't understand this section is that we just start with the chemistry and, they become bombarded with all of the, nitty-gritties and the details and so on. So I'm going to use a very, very simplified model that you can follow. Okay. So for those of you who haven't subscribed, by the way, you're more than welcome to subscribe to the channel so that you can benefit from the tons of lessons that we're going to produce in the future. And please just if you like this lesson, just give it a thumbs up, for that algorithm, okay, so that it can obviously work in our favor. Right, and let's just start with the lesson. As I said to you, I'm going to just take it slowly. Today I want to show you how to use what we call the limiting reagent. Okay, so I'm going to take it slowly, and I'm going to use, as I said, a baking model. Right, let's begin. Right, so let's assume that we're going to bake. All right, and remember, when we bake, we always use cups, isn't it? All right, so when we want to bake muffins, we use cups, we use flour, we use sugar, and all the other ingredients. But for the purposes of what I want to do, let's just limit our ingredients to just flour and sugar. Okay, right, suppose my formula says 3 cups of flour. All right, I add it to 1 cup of sugar. Of course, we don't want to have muffins that are so sweet that you can't even eat them at the end of the day, right? So 3 cups of flour plus 1 cup of sugar will give us 6 muffins. All right, so that's our basic formula. Right, now what does this formula actually tell us? Well, it simply tells us what are the ratios that we will use for producing muffins. It relates the basic ratios of our ingredients to our products. Can you see that, right? So in this case, all that it simply tells us, 3 cups of flour, 6 cups of sugar gives us, 1 cup of sugar rather gives us 6 muffins. And as a result, does that simply mean that every time that we want to bake, we are going to bake 6 muffins? Of course not. But what it does tell us, or what it does show us, is how what are going to be our ratios of mixing so that we can always produce the same quality of muffin. Okay, right. So suppose, let's just make a question for ourselves. Let's just say, what if I wanted to produce 24 muffins? Okay, so I want to know if I want to produce 24 muffins. Okay, so I want to produce 24 muffins. Let's find out first, how many cups of flour am I going to use? Okay, and secondly, how many cups of sugar am I actually going to use to produce that? Okay, so the first thing that I want to find out, how much flour am I going to use to produce 24, and how much sugar are you going to use? Okay, right, of course people use different methods for this, but I'm going to show you a method called ratio and proportion. And the reason why I'm going to show you this method is that it works, okay? For the simple and mere fact that it works. And once you understand this method, it will help you to solve so many other problems in chemistry. And I'm going to show you as we continue with other lessons, all right? So look at what I'm going to do. So I want to first find out the amount of flour, right? But what am I given? I'm given the number of muffins. Can you see that? So where you start, where you always begin, you always will start at your formula. Okay? I'm going to relate what I have to what I want. Okay? Right? So in this case, what I have, that's muffins, and what I want is flour. So let's start there. So according to my formula, 3 cups of flour will always produce 6 muffins. If you don't mind, I'm just going to use M for muffins, right? So that I don't have to write out the word all the time. So 3 cups of flour will give me 6 muffins, right? That's according to our formula. But now, what do I want to find out? How much flour will I need to produce 24, right? So how much flour will I need? So I'm going to use X as an unknown. So how much flour will I need to produce 24 muffins? Now, please note what I've done very deliberately, right? What I've done is I've placed all that the things that are similar on the same side. Flour with flour on one side, muffin with muffin on the other side. That's for my formula. That's from the information that I'm given versus what I want. Okay? Right. And then all I'm simply going to do, ladies and gents, I want you to please note. So all I'm going to do is just cross multiply. All right? So I'm going to say 6 multiplied by x. That will give me 6x. Okay? And which is equal to 3 multiplied by 24. That should give me 72. Right? Okay, so multiply that. That should give us 72, right? Now, obviously, I want x, which is the amount of flour that I must have. So in this case, divide both sides by 6. And what do I get? I find out that x, I'm just going to take this up a little bit. I find out that x is equal to 12. So it means in order to produce 24 muffins, I need 12 cups of flour. So this represents the amount of flour. Does that make sense, ladies and gents? Right, I hope that you are following. Okay, so in essence, what I've just shown you here, this would be the very same method that we apply when it comes to chemistry. All right, of course, in chemistry, our formula, all right, in this case, constitutes of rather elements or sometimes compounds, right, that react with one another to produce products. All right. But in this case, the concept remains exactly the same. I hope that you get that, ladies and gents. All right. So I came up with a little saying, all right, that number of moles are to chemistry what cups are to the kitchen. Don't worry. If you don't understand what I'm saying just now, all right, you will understand it as we go along. Okay, right. Now, remember, now we found out in order to produce 24 muffins, it means that we would need 12 cups of flour. Okay, right. Let's do this. So now I want to find out the amount of sugar. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. What do I want? I want sugar now, right? But what do I have? I'm given the amount of muffins. Okay, so I go to my formula again. I want sugar. I've got the muffins. So I want to know, how do they relate with one another? For every 1 cup of sugar, all right, I will produce 6 muffins. Okay, so my question is, for how many cups of sugar will I produce 24 muffins? Can you see? I started at my formula, all right, and then now I am right here where we have the information. Okay, right. Once again, what are we going to do? We're going to cross multiply. Okay, so what am I going to say? 6 multiplied by x. Once again, that is going to give me 6x. So that's going to be 6x. And 1 multiplied by 24, that will give us 24, right? And so we divide both sides by 6. Okay, to find out the amount. Remember, this x now represents the amount of sugar, right? The cups of sugar. So in this case, 24 divided by 6, okay? Right, so that should give us 4. So it means 4 cups of sugar will produce 6 muffins. They will produce rather 24 muffins. Okay, are you with me? All right. I hope that you're following in what I'm doing. So in this case, ladies and gents, that's essentially what we're going to do when it comes to chemistry. All right. You know what I'm going to do? Let's take another example. Okay, but this example is going to lead us now to something that I actually want to show for this lesson, which is how to actually deal with what we call limiting reagents. And so what I'm going to do is in our next lesson, I'm now going to use the real chemicals. For now, I just want you to grasp this concept, okay? To understand it fully, all right? And we're going to take it one step at a time. Okay, shall we continue? Right, so continuing with our formula, so we said if we have 3 cups of flour plus 1 sugar, okay, 1 cup of sugar, we will produce not 24 rather, we said 6 muffins. Okay, so I'll just get rid of that. Okay, so 3 cups of flour plus 1 sugar, that will give us 6 muffins. Now, ladies and gents, I want us to do something. Okay, let me show you how to apply this thing called the limiting reagent. Just please stay with me. Stay with me. Suppose I say to you, right, we are given, all right, 10 cups of flour. This is given to us, right? And they want us to bake muffins, right? So this is given to us. We're given 10 cups of flour, and we are also given, let's just say for argument's sake, 8 cups of sugar. Okay, so this represents our flour and this represents our sugar. Okay, first of all, I want to find out, all right, how many muffins will I make? Will I be able to produce? But before we get that, let's first of all identify what will be the limiting reagent. So I want us to identify the limiting reagent. If you're asking yourself or wondering to yourself, but what is the limiting reagent? I'm going to explain it just now. So let's identify the limiting reagent. Now, what is the limiting reagent? I want you to just imagine to yourself, as we are baking, if we run out of, say, one of your ingredients, as I said, I'm going to limit it to these 2 for now, right? If I run out of sugar, can I still produce some more muffins? No. Remember, in order for me to produce muffins, I still need both the flour as well as the sugar, isn't it? So as a result, I will not be able to produce, right, muffins when I don't have one of the ingredients. So as a result, ladies and gents, I want to first find out which of the 2 ingredients is likely to run out first. So the one that runs out first means that the one that runs out first will be the one that limits how much of how much of the product we produce, how many muffins we actually produce. Even if you're not a science person, I'm sure this lesson will be quite useful for you, right? So first of all, I want us to identify which of those reagents, which one between these 2 will limit the amount of products that will form, the amount of muffins that we'll make, okay? And then secondly, I want to find out, so therefore, it means if the one that runs out first is the limiting reagent or the limiting reactant, okay, right, it means the other one therefore is said to be in excess. Okay, so I want to know which reagent is in excess. okay, which reagent is in excess. All right, meaning which one will actually, after having finished the other one, all right, which one will actually remain sort of unused, okay? What amount will remain unused and which one will have an amount that is in excess, okay? So, and then we want to also find out, therefore, how many muffins will produce, okay? So how many muffins will we produce? So, ladies and gents, as you are with me, right? I want to show you how are we going to actually find out which one is the limiting reagent, right? So how many muffins are we going to produce? Now, ladies and gents, as I said, please just stay with me. Remember, this is our formula. It tells us the basic ratios, right? And then after that, what do we have? We have now what is actually given. So what I do to identify the limiting reagent, of course, there are many other methods that you can use, okay? But I've had to, think through so many of them and come up with one that I believe is going to be much easier to explain, first of all, and much easier for students to understand, okay? Right, so I'm mindful if you've seen something different, of course it does work, okay? But in this case, I just want one which is going to be easier to explain, right? So let me do this. Let me test first. Let me check how many, using that flour, that 10 cups of flour, let me check how many muffins will I be able to produce, assuming I'm able to use all of my flour, right? I am not saying in any way that we're going to use all of the flour. I just am making an assumption and I want to find out and test, right? So I'm going to say to myself, all right, let's check with the flour. If I use 3 cups of flour, right? Remember that's from my formula. I always start there. I will produce 6 muffins, okay? Right? Now my question is, if I use all the 10, okay, 10 cups of flour, how many muffins are we going to produce? Can you see that, nah? Right, so, okay, so we're going to say, all right, so 3 multiplied by x, that will give me 3x, okay? And if I say 10 multiplied by 6, that will give me 60. So let's divide both sides by 3. And so x will be equal to 20 muffins. So it means if I'm able to use all of the flour, I would be able to produce 20 muffins. All right. Of course, that's if the sugar does not limit us. All right. So that's what we need to check for. Okay. Right. So let's check. If I use all of the sugar, though, right? So we haven't identified which one is the limiting reagent. We're still trying to find that out. Okay. So let's test using the sugar. So 1 cup of sugar produces 6 muffins. Okay. So I want to know. All right, let me just put a line across there. So 1 cup of sugar produces 6 muffins. So I want to find out, okay, if I use all the 8 cups of sugar, all right, how many muffins am I going to produce? Okay, so x muffins. Right, once again, what did we say? We just simply cross multiply. So I'm going to say x times 1, that will give me x. And then 8 multiplied by 6, okay? So I get 48. So it means that I'll get 48 muffins. Okay. Now, ladies and gents, I want you to please listen to me carefully, right? So now, between the two, flour can only produce 20 muffins. The amount of flour that I have can only be able to produce 20 muffins. But the amount of sugar that I have can be able to produce 48 muffins. All right? But remember, you need both of them to be present in order to produce muffins. So the question is, how many muffins can we actually produce? I'm sure you can actually see this. Who limits the extent of the reaction? Okay? definitely it will be my flour. Why? Because even if I can produce 48 there, but because the amount of flour that I have can only get up to a maximum of 20, right? Once it gets to 20, flour says, I'm kaput, I'm finished, all right? I cannot go any further, right? This one says, no, but I can still go. But remember, the amount of sugar, sugar cannot act alone to produce muffins. Are you with me, ne? Right. So in this case, this simply means that the one that is going to limit the extent of the reaction is going to be the flour. Now, ladies and gents, I've made this example very deliberately, that you do not assume that because the one is more than the other. Look at that. You had 10 cups of flour, but you had 8 of sugar, right? So it's not about those amounts there, but it is rather about the amounts that you use during the mixing process. Okay? So look at this. Even though you had more flour, but because you are using so much of it there, in this case, you find that it limits the reaction. Okay? That's not the point though. Sugar could have easily have done it. But in this case, as I said to you, so what will limit the extent of the reaction? It's going to be the amount of flour. So in this, I can answer my question and say which one is the limiting reagent. In this case, identify the limiting reagent. So our limiting reagent is going to be flour. So what does that mean? It means that sugar is in excess. It means once I am done making muffins, all right, there will be an amount of sugar that will still remain unused. In fact, let's find out. Shall we? All right, let's find out how much sugar will remain unused after the reaction. Stay with me, please. Right? So let's find that. Let's find that out. So it means that sugar is in excess. We know that much. Okay, so sugar is in excess. Okay, so it means there's more than enough sugar. Some of the sugar will remain unused, but I want to find out how much sugar will remain unused, right? So because flour is my limiting reagent, so I want you to please remember that whichever one becomes your limiting reagent drives the reaction. Okay, so in this case, what does it mean? It means, okay, the flour will be the one that will be the driver of the reaction. What does that mean? It means that flour will determine how much sugar I use. Flour will determine just how many muffins I'm able to produce. Can you see that? Okay, so flour will drive the reaction in that I'm going to use the flour, my limiting reagent, to find out how much sugar I'm going to use. I'm going to also use the amount of flour as my limiting reagent to find out how many molds, or rather how many muffins I'm going to produce. You see, I'm already talking the chemistry language, talking about moles, right? Okay, so now let's do that quickly. So 3 cups of flour, all right, will give me, okay, let me just write that in a different color, all right, so that it doesn't become monotone. Right, so 3 cups of flour will give, or rather will require 1 cup of sugar. Remember, what do I want to find out now? I want to find out how many cups of sugar are we actually going to use. Okay, so 3 cups of flour will require 1 cup of sugar. So my question is, all right, if I use all the 10 cups, remember that's my limiting reagent. We always use the limiting reagent to find out all the other substances in a reaction. Okay, so if I use 10 cups of flour, right, how much sugar am I going to need? All right, so let's cross multiply once again. So x multiplied by 3, that will give me 3x. 10 multiplied by 1, that will give me 10. Okay, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Okay, so this will give us 3 1/3 of a cup. So that's the amount of sugar that will require. So in order to produce the amount, or rather, if we use up all of the flour, all the 10 cups of flour, we are only going to require 3 1/3 of a cup, right, of sugar. Okay, so now let's check. If we use this amount of sugar, how much sugar will remain unused? Okay, so how much sugar will we have unused? So it means if I want to find out the cups that are unused, look at this. All right, what will it be? It will be the total amount of cups that we have of sugar, right? Subtract the amount of sugar that you use. Keep this in mind, okay? So it will be the total amount of sugar that we have. And how much sugar did we have? We had 8 cups, right? So the total amount was 8, but how many am I going to use? I'm going to use 3 1/3 of a cup, okay, right? All right, this can be written as 3,33, right? So in this case, I've got 8 minus 3 1/3, and obviously this will give us what? 4 2/3 of a cup. Of course, don't mind the fractions there, right? Okay, so I'm going to take that up a little bit. Okay, so that will be 4 2/3 of a cup of sugar. All right, I hope you can follow that, ladies and gents. Okay, right. And the question is, how many muffins are we going to be able to produce? Of course, we had already found that out. We're only going to be able to produce 20 cups because we found out we are going to use all of the flour. So I know if I use all the cups of flour, they will actually give me those amounts of muffins. So it means the amount of muffins that we'll be able to produce. You said to me for every 3 I'll use 6. So if I've used all of the 10, I will actually produce 20 muffins. Okay, so that is how we will actually do that. All right, I hope that makes sense, ladies and gents. All right, now I want to kind of leave this here. I know that I would normally want to continue, but as I said, I'm going to break this down into a step-by-step approach, okay, so that ultimately you understand the fundamentals of chemistry. In our next lesson, ladies and gents, what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to translate what we've been doing here. All right, I'm going to translate it into how we would apply this in chemistry. Okay, right, so please be on the lookout for another lesson. Otherwise, from me for now, it's really been good to be with you. Okay, please don't forget to subscribe for more valuable lessons. All right, and please just hit that thumbs up if you understood what I did here. All right, and we will take this further. Otherwise, it's goodbye from me for now. See you next time. Sharp, sharp.